Good morning, everybody. I will call our Finance Admin meeting of May 13th, 2025 to order. Madam Clerk, if we could do the roll call. And we do have quorum. Chair Ash is at an event, as is yeah, as not being a member of the committee, then your name wouldn't come up, but we certainly acknowledge that you're here and are glad you are. I'm only remote, so one row back. But we know you're here and we're just glad you are. I was saying that, so Kevin will be joining us in progress if he can after the Ford announcement that's taking place. And I think Chair Henry is in the same situation. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, under the adoption of the minutes, if I could get a motion to adopt those minutes. Councillor Leahy, seconded by Councillor, what's your name? McDougall. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We have no statutory public meetings or presentations. We do have one delegation from Mr. Stuart Galloway. Welcome. You're welcome to start now. And you'll see a timer come up on your screen as well, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, councillors, and thank you for allowing me to speak. It's actually about the agenda item that you've got coming up about the long-term care homes that's been presented by staff and jointly in partnership with Sofiac, which is who I represent. Sofiac is actually one of the delivery partners to the Canada Infrastructure Bank, so the federal bank, and it's about bringing federal investment into actually multiple projects, but in this particular case across regions, municipalities, for retrofitting existing properties. I'm not going to do you a death by PowerPoint. This is really just to say the presentation, or sorry, the report that you have in front of you is a representation of a big staff effort. It is a cross-department type presentation to you for a project that we think is worthy of consideration. It's very early days. The idea is that we can actually bring investment into the long-term care, the 4 facilities that you see on that report, and actually do it in such a way that it does not impact taxpayer dollars. It does head for GHG reduction. So I know there was a presentation that was going to be this morning, which was going to help us actually, because we were going to feed off that, because it talks about not being able to hit GHG reduction goals or net zero goals in an economical manner, whereas we're actually disproving that. We have track record across Canada. You are part of what is a minimum of a $500 million investment if this does go forward. The only other thing I wanted to say was I'm here for questions, obviously so is staff, but I'm here for questions if you have anything on the report. And thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Any questions to the delegation? Online. Councillor McDougall. Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your delegation. I just seeking clarity. So we are seeing reductions not only in energy usage, but that net reduction in energy usage will see savings that will cover those costs. That's the idea of this.
That is absolutely the idea. So the project is designed such that there is no investment required from Durham Region. All of the upfront capital is invested by Sofiac and the Canada Infrastructure Bank. That includes everything all the way to the complete fit out of the long-term care facilities. And then there is a period of time, a contract period, up to 15 years, of which only a portion of the demonstrated savings pay for the upfront investment. So if we save $100, for instance, the Durham will pay $85, so it has a positive 15% gain, goes back to the region on what are you currently paying at the moment for utility prices, plus avoided maintenance, plus avoided repairs, plus life cycle replacements. All of that's taken care of. The region owns all of the assets that are installed outright. So it's non-recourse as well. Nobody comes in, we're not going to get 5 years down the line and say, suddenly appear in the papers where somebody's ripping out air conditioning units in a long-term care facility. The region owns all of the facilities from day one. And if we get to the end of that period and the investment hasn't been paid out, that is not Durham Region's problem, that is our problem. That's part of the risk transfer and the underwriting that we take.
Very good. So to put it in a layman's terms, it's kind of like purchasing a new fuel-efficient vehicle, which over the period of 10 years pays for itself.
Correct, except you own the vehicle from day one and there's no balloon payments at the end.
Okay.
And you make money on the way.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Through the vice chair to the delegate. So again, thank you for coming here this morning. My question is along the similar lines. So so if we upgrade air conditioner and it saves us $1,000, so we're giving you $850, so to speak, on an annual basis, if that's the particular savings. Like, what happens if that has to be replaced, or it's the cost isn't working? Like, how the maintenance of it, all of those different pieces, how is that managed as part of the agreement? And also, that's the question too, is in the report we're supposed to be going down to essentially 100% greenhouse gas reduction in by, was it 2051? I can't remember the year. And so with these improvements, will we achieve that? So those are the first two questions.
Okay, thank you. So from the first part of the question, if there are no savings, and this is determined by an independent third party, and it's through international measuring protocols, so it's not something that we just make up. Independent third party appointed by the region, they determine there are no savings, then the region keeps the asset for free and pays nothing. You only ever pay your portion of the savings. So yes, in your scenario, if we keep saving $1,000, you keep paying $850. Over today's price, you are up by $150, which contributes towards maintenance. So the region remains responsible for the maintenance of the assets because that's what you have elected to do. Okay. Obviously, there's unionized staff and things. We take care of all the training. So we will train all the staff that are looking after the apparatus to make sure that they are looking after it. We will monitor independently that they continue to look after it in proper manner. If there is a life cycle replacement that takes place during the process, so if we're in contract for 15 years and an asset retires after 10, that's on us. The intention of a 15-year payback is actually that we will probably unlikely install any asset with a life cycle of less than 15 years because that's actually not beneficial to either party. And not only that, there is a residual value of at least 3 years of every asset that we put in. So if the contract's for 15 years, you don't end up suddenly replacing everything in year 16. It has at least another 3 years, and most assets last way longer than that. What was the other question? Sorry.
Oh, it just also around hitting zero, greenhouse carbon zero. Like, is that an achievable thing, especially on a building retrofit and something that's been built many years ago? Is that still an achievable path, even though that's the objective ultimately?
There's the intention of the program is that the region never puts a penny into the project and puts you in that positive cash flow situation. But like I do remind people often, I've got a laptop, not a magic wand. So net zero, we will probably get somewhere to 30% at least to net zero, and we'll do it in 2 years. But that does leave a runway and a pathway to get to net zero. We're accelerating the net zero pathway effectively. But there are options that the region will consider, and presumably when we get to the end, because this report is only to get to the end of what's called the investment grade audit, so the study, the design, the pricing and everything. When we get towards the end of that, the region will have a choice. Let's just say we want to still get to 50%, 60%. How do we do that? We've maximized grant money, we've maximized our free investment, but the region feels that they want to top up the project and do something that is slightly out of scope, but is part of the agenda to get to net zero and one hit. So you don't wait for another 10 years and do something else. So there are options to get closer to net zero, but we can't do it all for free.
No, and that's helpful. So I'm just trying to understand that piece. And then so it's all and the funding and everything is backed through the infrastructure bank. That's who you're.
The Canada Infrastructure Bank provides the lion's share of the debt, and we borrow that money from them. So we wrap the risk around the project. But the Canada Infrastructure Bank demands that there's 40 or 50% equity goes into that. So we took green equity, which is basically pension funds that invest in this kind of project specifically. So they have a very, very low equity interest rate. So we put that fund together with just somebody called Fondation and Desjardins, you'll know. So we took their money, married it up with the Canada Infrastructure Bank, and that's what created the fund. And the fund spreads across Canada. It's not just here in Ontario. We do private sector and public sector.
Yeah, no, and all of that's great. It's just, again, it still seems, still partially seems too good to be true. I guess that's the thing, that somebody else is taking on all the risk. Someone's taking out all the things. We're only having upside. Like, that's an unusual relationship. So I guess if things go belly up, like, it's the infrastructure bank's on the hook?
Well, actually, we're on the hook because we still have to pay them.
You still owe the money.
But it's funny you say that. I used to carry it in my book, and I say, I know what you're about to say. It seems too good to be true. Yes, 2.5, 3 years ago when the program started, that was a harder explanation to have. But nowadays, we actually have projects up and running. So, and it's IBM, it's Lactalis, it's airports, Montreal, Calgary. So it's not small projects that have been through this process. And if they haven't found the catch, maybe there just isn't one.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And
every single time everybody says it.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that because it makes it really simple on an invoice bill. If I'm paying less and I write it to you, like, it's pretty black and white. If the costs are going down and I'm still heating and cooling my facilities. Last question is around, like, building retrofits and doing things like geothermal and trying other ways to reduce the carbon footprint. Is that part of the plan, or is that more of an option?
I'd say it's part of the plan and an option. So I'm sorry, that's a very ambiguous answer.
It's okay.
There's so this next phase that we're doing at the moment, we've done what's the art of the possible. What's the list of the measures that are required by the region, but also what are the list of measures that we think are possible within a model for free. But we do look at renewables. So we'll look at solar, geotherm, but at the end of the day, the scope is agreed with the region. So it's done with them, not to you. It is a partnership. Our goals are aligned. So if geotherm doesn't make sense or solar makes better sense, we will include that into the project. It's an outcome-based project. So we will maximize GHG, maximize energy savings. Energy savings are what drives, obviously, the return on the project.
Yeah.
But GHG is not a byproduct. We try and balance the two because We have a commitment back to the CIB. Our portfolio has to be over 50% GHG reduction. If it falls below that, our cost of borrowing goes up. Not your cost of project, but then sort of the equity people start moaning.
Oh, no, it makes sense. It's incentivized to meet the objective, so I appreciate that. All right, thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Then thank you for the delegation. Next up within administration, we don't have any correspondence. We have 2 reports. First one being 2025 A2 about accessibility. Oh, sorry, were you you moving it? Okay. And seconded by Councillor Leahy. Thank you. Questions or comments? There we go. Go ahead, Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. Just the only comments are, being on the Accessibility Committee is a great honor, and the Accessibility Committee does great work all year round, so I'm hoping all will support the work plan. And I see Allison's online. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. If there's no other questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next up is 2025 A3. Councillor Leahy. I'm sorry, I'm moving it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
happy
I
to move it.
appreciate
Happy to move it.
I'll give Marilyn the opportunity to second it. Questions or comments on that? Thanks, Chris. No questions or comments?
No, I've hit the request button. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. So again, really briefly, to staff on this particular piece. So again, everything sounds great. Happy to see if we can install some more cost-efficient equipment, and then the only cost is our savings. So there really should be no very little financial impact. How quickly are we going to see something like this implemented? Is the first question.
Okay.
So through the chair, I'm going to pass it over to Ian McVeigh, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Through the chair to you, Councillor Leahy. Plan roughly at this point is to complete a detailed feasibility study over the next several months. Through that, we bring a scope of work and a potential agreement back to council towards the end of this year. And then if that's endorsed and approved to move forward, tentatively we could be into execution of the project in early 2026 with completion towards the end of the year.
And high-level thoughts from yourself and looking at the facilities, like it seems feasible that we'd be able to replace some HVAC systems and other different things that would basically lower our costs and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. That seems feasible from what we have today. There doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, no, that's helpful. And then my other question was around, so again, geothermal, because that seems to be the one that has the biggest impact. It also seems to be the one that's most difficult to retrofit. So is that on the radar as well as a possibility, or is it still too hard to predict?
No, absolutely on the radar. That is something that we've actually particularly asked for to be included in the detailed feasibility study, particularly for the 2 Hillsdale properties in Oshawa. Mm-hmm. They're on the sort of adjacent lots, and so there could be an opportunity for a system that serves both. Challenge is geothermal typically has a longer payback beyond 15 years, so that might be something where it still is a good investment as a long-term asset owner, where we might want to consider potentially some capital injection to make that work over the course of an agreement. But that's something we'll look at through the detailed study and come back to council with some recommendations on.
Yeah, no, that's great. So anyways, just happy to see that, fully supportive, and I appreciate the answers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Probably back to Mr. McVeigh again. So looking at the context in the background and looking at the report, it mentions 4 facilities, but there's really 5 facilities now because we have Seton coming online. Will Seton be meeting these same targets and expectations as set out here for the existing long-term care homes, or will it be brought online already behind where it should be.
Through the chair to you, Councillor McDougall, actually the Seton Long-Term Care Home is already ahead of where these buildings are and actually probably will be even after the retrofit. The Seton Long-Term Care Home was designed with the Durham standard for facility design construction in mind. And so it's already kind of, already ahead. It's actually going to be awarded the Pickering Green Builder of the Year award. So it's really an example of leadership in energy efficient
Excellent.
design and construction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Seeing no other questions, I'll call the question then. All in favor? And that's carried. Do you see it online? I don't see it, but okay. Under within finance and under correspondence, we have one. We've had additional information as late as yesterday coming in from provincial announcements. The recommendation on this particular correspondence is just a motion to receive and refer to staff. Any questions on that, or can somebody make that motion? Councillor Leahy again, thank you, and Councillor McDougall, thank you. No questions, and all in favor? And that's carried, thank you. We'll move then to reports. 2025 F4, to do with debentures. Moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by Councillor Leahy. Questions on the report? Seeing none online as well. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Second report, F5, is regarding the investment policy. Nancy, did you want to speak to about some of the things we were mentioning?
So, through the chair, this is a very lengthy report, but it really does one thing. We have to comply every year with the requirements under prudent, but there was one change that we needed to make. If you will recall, we had to find what was money required immediately at 3 years or less and money not required immediately, which was 4 years and above. But as we have worked our way through this process, there are a bundle of investments that don't quite fit. And one example that the region doesn't own, but you may relate to, is owning your local utility. It's a long-term investment, but it doesn't quite fit into a prudent scenario. For us, the region, we have purchased our own debentures over the years because we might as well pay ourselves the interest. So they are longer than 3 years, but there's no control that the one joint investment board could have over them. So essentially, we've created a category called special assets. So the things that don't quite fit into that category sit there and the region maintains control over them. That's what's happening through this whole quite detailed report. That's the change that we're making. And it's really that unanticipated. We can't transfer a utility to one joint investment board because it's a corporate entity that has its own governance and decision making. So it's a housekeeping almost to just pick up those kinds of assets.
Thank you, appreciate that. Could I get someone to move and second that? Moved by Councillor McDougall, seconded by Councillor Leahy. Thanks, guys. Any questions in council or online? Seeing none, then all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next up is F7, to do with DCs on medium and high density residential development charges. Oh, did I miss one? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So back up one to F6 on the new 12-inch pipe fee. Moved by Councillor Leahy, seconded by Councillor Crawford. Go ahead, Councillor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question. So if I understand the report, we've never had a 12-inch water pipe anywhere in the region, which is why we need this new rate.
That's correct. It wasn't anticipated, and so we had to add in a charge that fits for it.
And so then my next question, where would they need such a massive amount of water supply?
So through the chair, I didn't actually look where this particular one was. I'm not sure whether Nicole can answer that question through the chair.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Leahy. So The proponent that's going to have this, this water meter is OPG, and it was determined that this size was most appropriate through discussions with our work staff and through the proponent themselves.
Okay, yeah, no, that's helpful. It's just, it's an awful lot of water, so I guess government paying government more or less, OPG, but I appreciate that. No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Be able to fill my pool in a hurry.
Yeah, very quickly.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you for asking the question. Yeah, Councillor Leahy. I did reach out to work staff myself, being a professional engineer and having seen rather large water services head into buildings, and I was thinking, who the heck would use a 12 or even a 10-inch main? But the conversation came down to, generally speaking, it's used for fire protection services. So, in an emergency. So, yes, it's a large bill, but if you need it, you need it. Thank you.
Don't see any questions online. Oh, Councillor Kerr.
I was just going to say, if you're going to dig the hole anyway, you might as well put in something that gives you the capacity to handle all your potential needs. That seems to me to be a prudent thing to do. Thank
Fair
you.
enough. Thank you. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Now we're at F7 to do with DCs on medium and high density residential development. Moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Leahy. Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Schumer, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I guess my first question would be to staff. So how does this relate to the just announced Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act? How does this potentially tie into what the province is proposing?
So through the chair, I'll start, and if my voice gives out, then Mary Simpson is here as well. So this is, in my view now, we wrote this report, of course, before knowing what was going forward, and I still would put forward that this report's important to proceed because there are some investors ready to go if this gets approved. And with respect to what the province is doing, there's still a lot of discussion that needs to be had. The province wants to engage with us and work our way through the changes that they were referencing yesterday. So I think my strong advice would be for this to proceed. We're not giving away more than what the province has indicated, so that won't give us a problem once we start to deal with those proposals. So I would suggest, for the benefit of the builders that are ready and waiting for this approval to actually put concrete in the ground, that we proceed.
Okay. And so there will be no interest charged on any of these deferrals unless they were to go into default.
That's right. So the deferral agreements will all be individually negotiated, and if a deferral agreement is that they don't pay for 8 months and on 8 months and a day they don't pay, then the interest would be calculated retroactively. But if they pay, then there is no interest being charged. That's correct.
Okay. And the cost in the report, I think it was $250,000. Am I correct there? That's taking into account everything, including the foregone interest.
So through the chair, that's not exactly correct at this point because we've switched it to say that the deferral would be interest-free, that there will be additional lost interest revenue by virtue of this. So we may have run some rough numbers. I'm not sure if Mary has looked at that yet, but by making the deferral interest-free, we are giving up some additional funds.
Okay. Yeah, I have to tell you that I'm not comfortable with that. I fully understand the deferral. I think that is, giving a definite benefit to builders, but I'm not going to support it on the basis that we are also giving up the interest. It obviously, as the report states, it obviously puts the region at a disadvantage of having to spend money that has not come in, and now we're spending money and incurring interest without collecting interest. So I think it's gone a little rich, at least for my blood. I appreciate the work that staff put into it. I would hope maybe by the time this comes to regional council that we can have that additional piece of information, that foregone interest revenue added so that we've got a clear picture, but I'm afraid I can't support it in its amended format with no interest collected. Thank you. And a recorded vote when appropriate. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you, Councillor Leahy.
Perfect, thank you. Through the vice chair to staff, on this particular one, so our anticipation is, since we're not charging for interest for anybody, that we would assume like there'd probably be 100% uptake in this deferral because there's no other real requirement. Is that fair?
So through the chair, our goal is that there would definitely be uptake, and we certainly have been in discussions with a high-rise developer who quite literally is waiting to pour concrete when this is ratified by council. So the goal is to really get movement in areas of, I'll say, more affordable, and I mean general market affordable, not our promotion of affordable in our context, but for covering off townhomes and any multiplexes and high-rise, then those are the ones that if we can give them a leg up to get going, it does look like the province is going to extend that further, but at least if we could get these going forward. The feedback we received is that if we charge the interest, then it's of no benefit to them. So if we want to see some of this come forward, then I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. Like if we are in a housing crisis and we are seeing issues with getting housing starts built, and we are getting feedback from the development industry that they are hitting barriers, especially with the tariffs and costs, then this makes a lot of sense to me. So you kind of answered it in your response, but my next question is, are we seeing more developments that are keen and actually looking for this, or are they at risk of not moving forward if we don't try and provide this type of support?
So through the chair, I'll perhaps refer you to the build letter they wanted this to go even further, of course, and that's where it's suggested that the province will be going. And the build as an entity very strongly is saying that without deferrals, that nothing is moving in the market. And so I would then assume the flip side, that if there is deferrals, we would see some action taking place. And just if I may, I'm not sure Mary has had a lot of discussions with Build, whether she wants to insert anything else about whether this, how this would move things forward in the industry.
Thank you. I would only add that I think this positions the region very well moving into the discussions that the province has indicated are going to happen. One of the recommendations in the report was that the region of Durham be a willing participant in the modernization of the Development Charge Act itself. And I think this is an important step in that direction.
Yeah, so no, and that is very important, and I think we need to move forward with that. My next question is around, so if developers are trying to say, if we don't give them this opportunity for a leg up, that they're not going to complete some of the projects, could we not say that by providing this interest-free, we might be foregoing some interest revenue, but we might actually see a larger uptake in development charges because projects are moving forward, and is that not necessarily a net benefit to the region?
So through the chair, I think there's a number of net benefits to the region, which is why we brought the report forward to you today. I mean, clearly, the housing crisis as it is, we need to see things moving forward. And if this is a tool that the developers are indicating would assist in that, then absolutely that's the benefit and what we put forward. If it costs us some in foregone interest for this limited capacity, then that's worth it for the type of development this is. If you're asking me about interest-free deferrals for every residential, then we have huge cash flow issues with respect to, because if you obviously this, the region does the water sewer up front. So we need cash flow up front. So there's a whole lot of work that we need to do in partnership with AMO and in partnership with the province to try to figure out how to grapple with these other issues. But for this component, we're comfortable recommending this, but that broader stroke would have some significant timing and cash flow issues for us with respect to in placing major capital growth related projects.
And you're doing a great job leading to my next questions. So on the next piece, if we were to expand this, and I understand you have those concerns, and we have to front load more of the water and sewer, which is the more expensive part, for extra, let's say, low-rise developments. can we not, A, borrow for that, knowing that it's deferred revenue, that we're going to get it later, A, and then B, if we don't have enough money to cover those capital investment costs through the next DC study, can we not increase what we would charge the rates for things moving forward to capture what was lost?
So a couple of things I would say. I think any further beyond what the report says is really going to be a complex discussion with the province, because if we're already going to have to borrow significantly to meet our capital program. But if we don't have cash flow, then sufficient cash flow to pay back our borrowings, then we're borrowing to pay back a mortgage payment, right? Like it's a snowball effect. So we need to spend a significant amount of time trying to figure out, because we are very much a willing partner with respect to trying to resolve DC-related issues. The question is, where can we find the capacity, and what does it look like, and what does it mean for this council when we're working our way through that process? So that's why I keep dividing out sort of what's on the floor today versus making any commitments with what the province is going to engage with us in, because we really want to engage and figure out the implications and put our best recommendations forward, or advise this council where there is no dialogue and the province is making determinations. What does that mean for this council? So I'm cautious about stepping further, but I am hoping that this step forward will really give some relief and movement in some projects.
Yeah, no, agreed. Fully supportive of that. I guess just the one part that I'm just looking for a little bit of clarity. Let's say we put in $100 million of water and sewer into the ground. We only collect $80 million. There's a $20 million hole. Can we not add that to our next DC study as part of the time we're trying to capture for the system?
So certainly post-period benefit is something that can be calculated. The complexity of the development charges background studies are very dictatorial over how you do it. And of course, the other concern is if there is talk of caps. So depending on what the province chooses to do in this whole dialogue going forward, it may be that we're restricted how much we're able to increase that by. So if we already have a shortfall and we're restricted to how much we can increase a new study by, then it magnifies. Then where do we get that funding from? So it comes back to who's funding these deltas. So the trouble with today, kicking the can down the road, we don't know the implications of the work we want to do in cooperation with AMO and the province. And we do have staff, Mary and her team are represented on a couple of committees, as am I, in trying to work through what this looks like as far as future proposals. I mean, from a regional perspective, I've said this often, it doesn't matter to me where the funding comes from for growth-related capital, as long as we have it to put the capital in place and as long as it doesn't harm existing taxpayers. The DC regime is what it is, and if we want to modernize it, then we're happy to partner in trying to figure that out. But we need this council to understand all the implications of what those things are. And that's information I don't have for you today. So that's why we wanted to get this step forward, because the timing is right at this time of year to get some things happening while we sort out the consultation with the province and what the ultimate picture is going to look like.
No, and then I appreciate that. And I guess just understanding that there might be caps. Like, I don't know how you cap the cost of something that we don't control. Like, I guess that's the part that's hard. Do we only give people some water some of the time? Like, it doesn't make a lot, capping doesn't make a lot of sense. The cost is the cost. Like, I can't negotiate with my plumber when I have a problem and say, oh, that's more than I have in my budget. Like, you got to fix it. So I appreciate that that's the issues that we have, but I'm not sure how we square that round hole, so to speak.
It comes down to either other sources of funding from upper levels or reducing your capital program, right? And then you're not accommodating for the growth that is in theory able to proceed if you have to shrink your capital program to match your financing that's available.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a circular challenge, which is why, as I say, we're willing to be very involved in any discussion so that we can try to find ways of resolving that issue.
Well, the fact that they're interested in and we're a willing host and there's some engagement is promising, so that they can hear about those issues up front and not after they make an announcement. So I appreciate that. hopefully that's going to be positive. Fully supportive of the report and looking forward to next steps. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great questions. Thanks, Councillor Leahy. Councillor Kerr, I see you there. Just one moment. Is there any other questions from committee? Okay, Rick, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And Councillor Leahy asked some of my questions. But just to refocus back onto the document at hand, what is the cost of not charging interest on the project's development charges?
So through the chair, section 6.4 of the report, prior to us changing it, referenced that it could potentially cost the region over $250,000 in financing costs. But I will ask Mary whether they've done any analytical work beyond that, and the answer is no. So we need to take a look at that, and we'll be looking at that as well in conjunction with what the province is recommending, and be coming back with information, obviously, probably a number of times to this committee throughout the balance of the year.
Okay, thank you. And so secondarily, I think if we're looking at this as an incentive, then, and we must look at the cost of the incentive and what we're going to net. So as one of my commissioners in Oshawa says, it's not what it costs, it's what it's worth. So I think if we're looking at the cost of not charging interest as a further incentive, and if it enables us to get an increased volume of development projects coming forward from which there are DCs and later on property taxes, then I think that's what we need to sort out. So that's just what I would say at this point. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Great points. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on the report? Including online, I don't see any, so I'll call the vote. It was a recorded vote that was requested by Councillor Schumer, Mayor Schumer. And that's open. And that's carried. Thank you. Our next report up is 2025 F8 to do with winding down the regional revitalization program. I would expect a fair bit of discussion on this, and if I can, from the vice chair perspective, sort of kick things off. There'll be some discussion about the legalities of the existing program that we need to be aware of. Certainly, the province and our municipalities share the goal of encouraging development. If I take it locally within Uxbridge, we've acquired through expropriation probably $4 to $5 million worth of property, and are looking to have that revitalized. An RFP is coming out imminently within the next 4 to 6 weeks. We have some interest, and of course, it's all about, can they make it work? If we were in a period of booming times and builders lining up to kickstart a local major initiative where this property would evolve from $4 or $5 million with minimal businesses on it to, I would estimate, probably $100 million, and all the revenue, and Councillor Kerr and Leahy were referring to this, of what will come down the path. If it was booming times and we knew for sure that was coming, I would feel very differently. Right now, our developers are looking for any opportunity they can, anything that will help move things along. The margins are thin enough as they are that if we can support them and encourage them to come to town, whether it be Uxbridge or another community, I'm in favor of that. So we're in a very difficult economic time. I think we've got a number of councillors from Oshawa on here that may want to speak to it. We know about the layoffs that are happening, so anything we can do to encourage construction and all the spin-off jobs that come from construction businesses, I think is something we want to explore. So the more we can do around this, the better. What I'll do is I'll just get someone to make a motion, please, on the report, and second is moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by Councillor McDougall, and then open it up for discussion. Councillor McDougall, you can kick things off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having reviewed the report, I understand the concerns that staff have presented in terms of the region not having a, well, I struggle with the upper tier municipality without planning responsibilities statement in the report for the simple reason that I know fully that the region retains planning responsibilities with regards to water, sewer, roads, transit. I can understand the statement with regards to land use planning. I think myself, I'm looking at this as possibly an economic development tool more than a planning tool. And certainly, as you just mentioned in the north, although, you know, it's been widely used by, when I go down to 4.5, widely used by, you know, Oshawa, Ajax, Whitby, small extent of Uxbridge. I look at, you know, the possibilities in, say, Scugog or Brock or even Clarington. We don't have the economic generators. We're not talking about GO train stations. We're not talking about Kubota or Ace Bakery moving in. I mean, our little downtowns are economic generators on their own. And this is a tool, as I see it, that could possibly help us in the future. No, we haven't utilized it as of yet, but it's something that could be utilized in the future. So to take all these funds and push them towards housing, and I fully respect the need in the housing area for the region, I see it takes away from a possibility of economic development for our smaller municipalities. That's kind of my statements at the beginning. In terms of the legality, is there any possible comment on using this from an these funds from an economic development perspective?
So through the chair, perhaps if I can start off by saying that this program is one that staff has really been proud of, and there's been so many significant accomplishments with respect to this program. So there is absolutely no intent, I'll say, with respect to saying that the program, you know, isn't needed or isn't successful, or like we are very invested and very proud that this program has done what it has done over the years. The challenge is around how we enable it, and 5.5 is the section of the report that talks about the problem with the enabling it from an upper tier perspective. That being said, the reason why I recommended the community housing provider is that that's money that would be invested in not regional assets, but community housing providers who are also struggling, and some investment into their properties creates some spin-off, and certainly many of them are located in throughout the entire region. That being said, I mean, council can, or this committee can choose to say, look, we want a program of that nature. Can you go back and try to figure out some other way of delivering that program? It's our interpretation through regional solicitors across the board that this particular enabling thing is no longer available to us. But we are certainly in no way, you know, any incentive to try to take something away that has, as I say, that staff really feel proud that they have contributed through the work around this and the partnerships with the local municipalities. They've contributed to really seeing some interesting things happen. So that's the only thing I would put to you, is that if you wanted to refer back to see whether we could come up with a program that gives us some way of enacting such a program, we can go and give that a really good kick at the can. Our challenge is we have to watch with respect to bonusing, of course, and this was our way around the bonusing, was through this enabling structure, through the official plans. So we can, I'm not sure what mechanism we would have, but you can certainly send us back and try to figure that out. Because as I say, the program was always a valuable program. So as I say, it was no intent to, you know, try to remove something that has value. It's just our struggle is how to enact it. So if council, if this committee really, you know, feels strongly that they, rather than the funds flow, and I don't mean to say that you don't put value there. I'm simply saying if you think there's more value to trying to stimulate through this, we can certainly try to figure out whether there's another mechanism. Certainly, if I may say, though, we will have a window of time where, you know, we can't, the ones that are kind of in the stream need to hold until we find some appropriate mechanism if we could, and we'll certainly be leaning on our legal partners to try to figure out some way of doing a program that, and I can't make any guarantee that we can, but we can certainly, if you don't want to go the pathway that's recommended, we can certainly try to figure out whether there's some kind of other program that we can put into play.
Thank you. And further through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just looking at the report again and the recommendations, and I'm thinking, could we park these funds under recommendation B2 is the Economic Development Reserve Fund, which, potentially sees perhaps some of the same benefit as to what the program has already. Would that possibly be a consideration?
So through the chair, you can certainly put the funds in whatever reserve fund you choose. You still have the same problem of if you want to actually utilize the funds to give to a third party for development purposes, the region still has to have the authority to do that, right? So the Economic Development Reserve Fund is used for a number of things, one of which has been servicing of lands over the years, and Simon can speak to some of the other things that he's used that reserve fund for. So there's certainly no issue if that's simply where you would like to put the funds and then, that be utilized as time goes by, but it could not be used for this exact program without us finding another legal mechanism. So if council doesn't want us to make a permanent decision right now, you don't have to do anything. It can just sit where it is right now. We don't have to decide to move it somewhere else if you do want further investigations on other scenarios.
Well, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, I certainly wouldn't want to make the recommendation that we park it somewhere else without, recommendation from staff. So thank you for your comments.
If I can, I see more on the speakers list. I'll come to in 1 second. If I could just ask this question, Nancy. If it was referred to staff, would applications continue to be processed, or would the program be paused?
So this is my opinion, but I'll certainly have Jason concur. I think everything would have to hold until we found a legal mechanism. Now, people could still send us things and we would know what's in the pipeline, but I'm thinking we're offside, and Jason's nodding at me, so we can't just keep rolling along. We need to figure out another way. So certainly we could still keep the door open and sort of accumulate what's there, but we wouldn't be able to make any commitments or bring back reports until we found a legal mechanism to pursue a program.
Fair enough, thank you. Good morning, Councillor Yamada. You're up next.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Oh, hold on. I'll turn myself this way so you can see me. Unfortunately, I won't be supporting this recommendation. The work that I've seen in section 4.5 since the program's inception in 2008 with $19 million out to municipalities to help with their revitalization projects, I think is really an important economic development tool that we have here at the region. I think I would be okay to see the $1 million be transferred to tariff response, because we don't know how the government is going to move forward on their, the federal government and the provincial government will move forward on their tariff response. We also heard in that Oval Office meeting that the president said there's nothing that could be done to move him on the auto tariffs. So I assume that these tariffs are going to be here for a while. So putting that $1 million to the tariff response, I think is fine. But the balance of the reserve fund, the estimated $10 million, I think should stay within the regional revitalization fund. Moreover, when I look at the report and the region, we talk about some of these legacy third-party community housing providers and where that money would go to. Would staff be able to provide examples of who these people are or who these groups are, so I have a better understanding?
So through the chair, we can absolutely do that. We do have our housing staff representative here today, so I'll pass it on.
Thank you. And through the chair, these would be the community housing providers that the region of Durham has a legislated responsibility as service system manager for. So those would be the community, nonprofit, and cooperative housing providers that we are legislated to provide rent geared to income subsidy for. So there's 33 providers, 32 excluding the Durham Regional Local Housing Corporation in Durham.
Well, I would say going back, I guess, to the region's government relations strategy, where it talked about waiting till after the federal election, which now has occurred. I think this would be something that we could lobby the federal government for. I don't think we should be taking money out of our revitalization plan and shifting it around. I think these projects that were listed in section 4.5 are good projects. And I think there are more that will probably be coming down the pipe. And I would want to see projects like this go forward in our various municipalities so we can benefit all of us from the economic benefits that they bring forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Crawford.
Thank you. My question is about another section of this report. Is that possible to ask that? So the rescinding of the redundant Pickering Casino Reserve bylaw. Help me to understand what is actually happening here, and is the region still receiving revenue? You just don't put it in a reserve? Is that the deal? It just goes straight to home housing and homelessness?
So through the chair, originally when the agreement was negotiated with Pickering, the idea was that the funds would go into a reserve fund. We would pull it out as needed and it could earn interest. What's happening is that we need every dollar as it comes in. So first of all, it's not reaching the $6 million cap. So we tend to get 3 to 4 million a year, but it's going right into the housing budget and being spent every year. So it's more of a paperwork. There's just no point in the reserve fund when we're spending every dime that comes. We're not putting any of it aside. So the reserve fund has become redundant.
Okay, so for some reason I thought that the reserve fund from the casino was going to be helping with some of the infrastructure in the area. Like at one point we talked about there was going to be widening of turn lanes on Brock Road. I know that's going to be a mess in the next year, but I thought, is that not happening because the traffic isn't exactly where we thought it was going to be?
So if I may, and I'm not sure whether, I know Works is not here today, and I'm not sure whether Mary is prepared for this question, but those are outside. And so the casino revenues, the agreement there is essentially that it's going to housing. The infrastructure works and the requirements based on the agreements with Durham Live are a separate issue, depending on whether there's cause for us to require the developer to place them in, that kind of thing. So I can't really speak to how it's happening, but that the Pickering Casino revenues that come to us were not envisioned.
Not part of that whole
That's right.
scope. Okay,
we had hoped for originally a much broader negotiated agreement that covered off all of those components. But there are other agreements about the servicing with the casino.
So at what point was a decision made that it would go directly to home? Is it just a matter of this is our biggest need, so this is where we're going? Is that how that happened?
So it was negotiated through the agreement that was approved by council, and then
Sorry.
and then
I hate those answers.
And then the budget document approved every year exactly how it happens.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I must have missed that one. Okay, thank you. As far as the other part of this, I mean, I'm happy. I don't know how the committee feels, but I'm happy to have staff go back and take a look at how this can possibly maintain or be maybe redesigned for something that can be useful to downtowns. I mean, we have a downtown, but I don't know that it's the same kind of downtown that is in, the other different municipalities. But if that's something that you think that would be beneficial to be able to go back and maybe look at how we can do this. If the current way we're doing it is wrong, then maybe is there another way we can do it? Would that, I don't know, is that?
So if I might suggest, if we do nothing, then the funds are frozen because we really can't legally do anything with the way the legislation is now. So I would suggest if you divide out E, that's the Pickering Casino,
Okay.
to move forward and refer the balance back to staff. I don't know whether you still want to transfer some of the funds to for the BI or not. I leave that to your contemplation. But if you refer the balance back to staff to investigate the feasibility of a legislative means of supporting revitalization projects similar to the existing program. And then we can, we can come back and give it our best shot. We may come back and say we can't do it, but at least we'll go back and see what other scenarios present themselves and report back to this committee.
I'm okay with that, but that was a lot of words, and I don't. So you want me to separate? First of all, you want to separate the Pickering the casino piece, right, and just vote on that.
That would be great if we could divide out E first.
Yeah. Yes. And then just refer the. Do you need a time date to come back, or do you want to suggest that?
So if I may, it may be quite challenging, so I'd rather not have a time or date, but I do acknowledge there is urgency with respect to a couple of imminent projects. So, but we are at May 13th.
And you have budget in December, so.
We would try to bring it back in the fall. I think because if we can find a way to do a program, we certainly want to get it before you quickly, because you do have, as I say, I've heard of a number of projects that are very imminent,
Right.
looking for support. So we would take it as urgent. We couldn't do June, but perhaps we might get to something in the fall of what we can do here.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I don't know if I have a seconder.
So,
Okay.
Councillor Crum, I'll come back to you when the timing is
Okay,
right to
okay.
separate out that.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Leahy.
Yeah, no, just similar thought process that's going around. That fine. I'm also fine with adjusting the Pickering Casino Revenue Reserve for approving that E, and if and BI the tariff response. That no issue with that as well if we want to do that, because that is imminent. The challenge I have is, again, I'm not comfortable with supporting the removal of this particular program. What I would ask is if we can understand where we're interpreting this in the legislation that won't let us do a regional revitalization piece, so that maybe some of us can ask our friends at Queen's Park to just say understand what the legislative block is, and maybe we can see if we can make some changes there. So I'd personally really like to understand that and see that exact piece, so that we can do our own lobbying efforts to try and correct that, because I think it's critically important that this type of program continues to support downtowns, like the upper tier of the region, supporting the downtown different projects. I think these little amounts help us in the long run. If this is what, as we were saying earlier with item was F7 around supports for developers to bring them into those projects, this is the type of thing that will help spur interest in all of our downtowns. We all know that they struggle from time to time. We need those support. This is a program that's been very successful in the years. I've said $19 million to support all of the downtowns across the region. So we need to find a way to have that program in some way, shape, or form. I'd really like to understand what's blocking us and see if any of our friends at Queen Park can look at something differently, or just clarify that piece so that we're not offside.
Sure. So if I may, I'm going to have, it's section 5.5 in the report, but I am going to have Jason speak to it for a moment if he can. The only other thing I would add with respect to referring it back is we can certainly clearly in that referral state that applications still be submitted so that people stay in the queue. If something's possible, then no opportunity is lost. But I will actually defer the main question, though, to our solicitor.
Thanks, Nancy. And it's an unintended consequence, I think, of the sort of overall planning actions and removal of planning authority by the province. So I do think that, and I do think staff might need time, because this might actually be the province that is fixing this and not regional staff, and that is going to take some time. It is under active discussion among the regional solicitors and a number of city solicitors in the province as to what other options we might have. There might be some things that we can do municipally to account for the bonusing concern, which is the concern that staff have with continuing with the program as it is without the exception. So that's one option we can explore. And the other option is, Councillor Lay, as you've indicated, is the province could fix this as well with legislation. So we can tighten that message and communicate that out so that everybody knows what it is we would be looking for from the province if they were to fix this. But we'll also work on our own internal solution if we get that direction.
Yeah, no, that would be most welcome, because I don't think any, again, unintended consequences. I don't think anyone's trying to stop programs to support downtowns across the province. So whatever we can do to correct that, to make sure this program continues, is greatly appreciated. So yeah, I would look forward to that information, so we can do our own individual lobbying efforts on that. Thank you.
So through the chair, did you want me to attempt to repeat a proposed recommendation, or did you manage to catch the?
You okay? Somehow she kept up to all that. Why don't we, do you want to read it out yet? Why don't we wait and see if any non-committee members want to speak first, because it might change again yet, if that's all right. Anybody else on committee or off of Finance Committee wish to speak further about it? Look who's joined in progress. So Mayor Barton, just to welcome, just to bring you up to speed, there's been lots of discussion around the importance of the program. There's understanding with staff and committee that it is critical. A couple of councillors have spoken to the importance of economic development through downtown revitalizations. And on one small item, we're going to break out the item to do with Pickering. But on the other issue, there's been some discussion of referring the report back to staff, but it's unclear at this point. There's no quick solution. We haven't discussed a lot in the way of what those solutions could be in time, but just to avoid you having to ask questions that have already been requested. So at that, over to you.
Hey, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. So you and I spoke offline on this. This is important for our downtowns. If we want to have to develop our brownfields and redevelop our downtowns, sometimes they need a boost. This type of program is important. So let's just make sure that we don't make any rash decisions today, and look at all the new provincial legislation that's coming out, in the next few days and weeks, and make sure that we have a program that is legal and will actually allow development in our downtowns by private individuals. So that's anything else you need from me on that. This is going to be pushed. Am I correct, Bruce?
Going to be pushed and referred back to staff? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
That's the gist of the recommendation so far. We haven't made that motion yet.
Okay, fair enough. That's the direction I think we need to go, and that way we can make sure that there's a program that will work for the urban areas like Oshawa and the rural downtowns like Uxbridge and Scugog and Brock. Thanks.
And I heard on the way in this morning that this is National Top Gun Day, and I respect that you decided to dress accordingly.
Hey, thank you. I'll turn off my camera then, thanks.
And I love the fact that I can press this button and you're gone. Regional Chair Henry, I saw your name flash up momentarily. Is he still online? Yep. Go ahead, Chair Henry.
I'm sorry, I was just connecting. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Before we craft then the actual motion, any further questions or comments? Councillor Chapman.
Hello?
Here we go. Can hear you now.
Yeah. The concern I have about the referral is that staff said it's going to take a lot of work to do, and I don't doubt their things. And we keep using the word. What I find is interesting is it's not legally possible, but although we've had our solicitor mention a few things, I'm surprised that the report didn't contain a legal opinion. But the problem is if we wait till the fall to find some of this out, part of this policy is the developers can't apply for it. They have to apply for it before they start work and doing all their permits and all that sort of stuff to get the approval. So that's going to slow down. We're talking 6 months of period when a lot of work gets done, right? Because the quicker the approvals go, the quicker the permits come, and then the quicker the foundations get dug, and good weather relies on some of that stuff. So I know it's a press, and I know the commissioner said that they would come back as quickly as they can, but I would like to see a real quick turnaround and something happen in June if in fact this committee is going to refer it. I would much rather see it defeated, but anyway, those are my comments. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate that. Thanks. Further questions? My comment personally is that housing is housing. So I'm all for private sector development and trying to move that and encourage that to happen. While it's necessary through housing to supplement that, the more we can encourage the private sector to take on the financial and development risk of taking that with some encouragement, certainly encourage whatever program to go that way. There's been some discussions offline of what that solution might work with, so I would, those that have reached out to me with how we could continue a program that fits within the legal framework, I'd encourage them to reach out to Nancy as soon as they can to start pulling that together. Did you have another comment, Nancy?
If I may, just to speak to the most recent concern, we could add in to your deferral a motion to allow a temporary waiver on the ban on starting construction. Now, it would mean that the person proceeding wouldn't have a commitment for the funds, but by virtue of proceeding, it wouldn't eliminate them. So if in part and parcel with the deferral, you added in that there's a temporary waiver of the requirements where there's the ban on starting construction eliminates your eligibility, you could certainly do that. As I say, the person wouldn't know what the financial commitment would be in the end of the day, but it wouldn't automatically eliminate them from being able to proceeding and then being kicked out of any future possibility.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you. Marilyn, could I ask you then to make the motion to break out, I think it was item E, and we'll vote for it separately? Okay, so moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by Councillor McDougall. Any questions before we vote on that? Seeing none, then all in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. So then the clerk is going to put up a revised motion for us all to be able to read through before we vote. I think a recorded vote would be in order on this as well. So it's on the screen now. If somebody wants to move that, Councillor Leahy, thank you, appreciate that. Councillor Crawford to second. Questions then on the revised motion? Councillor Yamada, I'm sorry, there you go. Over to you.
Thank you. So just wanting to know for clarity, so this will come back in the fall and the current program will still be the status quo?
So through the chair, this will come back in the fall, but the current program can't remain a status quo because it doesn't have legislative authority. But you could, as that's why the last bullet in this says applications still be submitted so that we know who is in the queue. And you could also amend that if you wish to allow a temporary waiver on the ban of starting construction. So that at least gives the possibility for the existing projects to come in to the system, but we can't actually proceed with them under the current legislation. So if and until we get a legal resolve, we would simply be trying to maintain the flow of information so that what we then come back and create doesn't eliminate the people that are in this transition period. But we'd have no ability to continue with the program until we find a legislative resolve through the province or through other legal options or means.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McDougall.
Thank you. Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. My only question is it states that the applicants still be submitted so that the applicants remain in the queue, which I fully understand the idea of. My question is the queue for what? I think it's a similar program, but not this program.
So through the chair, if, and I'm speaking on behalf of legal, so Jason can correct me, if the province amends the legislation, the existing program would be able to proceed. If that isn't the case and we have to find some other mechanism, then they would be in the first in line under a new program if we can create one that's legally allowable.
So through you, Mr. Chair, my concern is just that we're making the statement that they'll remain in the queue with the idea that they're thinking they're in the queue for this program. And I'm saying I don't think this program is allowed to exist as of current right now today.
So would perhaps something like that, expressions of interest be submitted?
For a potential similar program?
Yes, that expressions of interest be submitted, recognizing the endeavor to create a same or similar program.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Councillor Nicholson, I'll get you in just one moment, sir. Councillor Nicholson, welcome. Go ahead. Good morning. If you're speaking, we're not hearing you. And we still don't hear you. We're not able to hear you, Councillor Nicholson. Anybody else wish to speak to the issue with a revised motion? Oh, Councillor Kurt.
Just a couple of questions. Through you, Mr. Chair. What is the legal basis of the opinion that we would not be in a legal position to keep offering this RRP?
The exemption that comes with our planning authority provided protection from the bonusing provisions in the Planning Act, which prevents municipalities from using taxpayer funds to benefit particular businesses. So that's the thing that ended, we think unintentionally, by the province when they removed the region's planning authority. So having and I've asked our lawyers to prepare something that we could take to the province, but it may be possible for the province to reinstate that exemption for the purposes of running something like a regional revitalization program. So that's the legal issue. And just so that councillors are reassured, every region we've spoke with all the other regions, they're all taking a consistent approach. They all have the same opinion that this was an unintended consequence, but they are having to pause their similar programs, and we are all sort of looking for an alternative.
Okay, secondarily then, if this referral goes through today and between today and the next, I don't know, week, 2 weeks, whatever, short time frame, the province comes back and comes up with a method that would enable the continuance of this program, what would we do with the referral and what would we do with the program that we have currently? How would you see us moving forward from that?
So through the chair, maybe I'll answer that partially, and if Jason wants to add in, but if legislation arrived in a week to 10 before council, then we could certainly pull the, delete, actually if it's referred, I guess it doesn't show up, but we could certainly address it at council, or we could address it, I think if we have legislative authority and this has been referred and the legislative authority appears, we may not need to take any other action other than a memo to let you know that the problem has been solved and we will continue. Jason is nodding. So if the legal problem disappears, then we can certainly just let you know that the legal problem has disappeared and we would carry on.
Okay, and secondary, or in a different line then, when you mentioned bonusing, I had thought that if a council made a decision to simply grant something to a particular developer, that might in fact be bonusing. But if we have a set of criteria in place that anybody applying for it would have to pass, if you will, to check off all the boxes, and if they don't, they don't qualify. If they do, they do. I'm just wondering, how does that still qualify as bonusing?
Councillor Kerr might soon be addressed as the regional solicitor, because I have the exact same question, almost framed the exact same way. So that is the kernel of what we're looking at, exactly, yes. But we should remember that the provision in the Planning Act, which granted the exemption, was put there for a reason. So that's some of our concern. However, I think that's the line of thinking that we have.
So I missed something there, sorry. So I mean, if we just say, here you go, have a great life, do this, we'll give you this, and away you go, I could see how that's bonusing if nobody else gets a chance. But if there's a set of criteria in place, and they have to pass that, and they do, how is that different, if at all, from just saying, here you go, have a great life?
So I think on the one hand, there is still taxpayer funds being provided for the benefit of a private company. However, and I don't have an answer yet, I think, to your full question. And if I did have an answer, it probably would come to you in a closed session memo. But I think, you're sort of along the same lines of thinking that we have, is that's the avenue we're going to explore. If we can have a fairness component to it, does that alleviate the concern?
Yep, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Nicholson, let's try again. Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me this time?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I had intended just to listen because I wanted to hear what the committee and staff were saying, but I'm needing some information. I keep reading in the report and hearing verbal comments at this meeting that this current policy is not legal, that it's not defendable in legislation. Yet you provide me with, as a councillor, with no information as to why you've reached that conclusion. Is there a reason why members of council are not provided with a legal opinion to explain the basis for this conclusion?
So through the chair, we did include at 5.5 of the report, the explanation, but we can certainly give a detailed memo between now and council on that from our regional solicitor if you'd like, but we tried to encapsulate that in section 5.5 of the report.
Well, I appreciate that, but yes, I would prefer the full legal opinion. You also indicated that you were in contact with, I'm assuming, legal representatives from other regional municipalities who concur with that position. Can we be provided with those opinions as well?
Those opinions, I don't think they have opinions that exist, and I'm sure they wouldn't share them with us. But we know from the reports that they brought forward to their councils and the discussions we've had that we're all of the same mind, I think, with respect to our view of the status of these regional revitalizations programs. We all are actually in kind of discussions about how we can sort of go forward and what options we might have. And I think most importantly, Councillor Nicholson, really the point was that we are all of the same mind that this was an unintended consequence from the province, and hopeful that on a policy basis we might be able to get the province to help us fix it. So that's more the nature of the discussions than the legal opinion.
Yeah, that's my fear with respect, Mr. Hunt, that this is all opinion. This is all supposition. This is not based on any factual data. I'm assuming, since this involves legislative authorities, have staff been in contact with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing and their legal representatives to see if we're interpreting their legislation correctly.
No, we do not have a question that whether or not we're interpreting their legislation correctly. We can provide council with our opinion on that, but we're confident in that component. The question we would have for municipal affairs, which we can certainly reach out and ask them, is whether or not this was an intended effect or an unintended effect, but that conversation hasn't happened.
Okay, with respect, it is your interpretation that's causing the problem. We're interpreting their legislation through our perspective and then suggesting to council a course of action based on that interpretation. It is not 100% shared by any solicitors. There are solicitors on the other side who think you're wrong. My question is, as a member of council, before you ask us to take a course of action, surely we as councillors can expect to have a full and informed decision making. So my concern again comes back to the basic question: on what are you basing your opinion? What is the legislation that's being impacted? What is the province's response? And what do other municipalities who are impacted in Durham have to say about it? Is there some reason why 7 municipalities in Durham have been left out of this process?
So if I may, through the chair, and I'm here as acting CEO as well, so my apologies if I extend this too far, but from the region's perspective, this is a regional program that we very much are supportive of in relation to partnering with our local municipalities, but we still have to rely on the region legal advice on how we would proceed. And certainly if you feel 5.5 isn't detailed enough, our solicitor has offered to give a full legal briefing memo that explains the justification for this. And as our solicitor mentioned, we are absolutely prepared to contact the province to see whether they intended to do this, or if they did not, what immediate steps that they can take to correct the situation. So that's the position that the region is at this point in time. And we're certainly happy to provide further details.
Okay, if I can seek just one last clarification. If the province says there's nothing to correct, will the process we currently have continue and all these steps be stopped?
So through the chair, if the province clearly indicates that their wish was us to continue to have this authority, then as discussed earlier, we would make sure that that mechanism was clearly identified, and we would not have to, given this as a referral, we would simply be able to send you a memo to say we're carrying on. If the province says, no, we had intended, this was either an unintended consequence that we need to fix somehow legislatively, or it was a deliberate choice on our behalf, then we have to go and try to find some other mechanism that would allow us to provide some type of program like this. I'm not sure if Councillor wants to add to that.
I might just add to that. It's actually, Councillor Nicholson, an excellent question, because if it is in fact the province's intention to end regional revitalization programs, while we may be able to develop alternatives, we might not be well advised to do that. So again, that it is an important question, one which we don't have an answer to, and we will get.
I appreciate that, and yes, I would like the legal report prior to the council meeting. Secondly, and an observation, and I mean this very sincerely and respectfully, it would strike me that the outreach to the province should have occurred prior to this report being written, so that we would understand where the province's position is before we walk down this plank towards a wet end. So I'm really surprised that this report's been brought forward at this time in this depth of understanding without a contact with the province and a clear understanding of their position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Leahy.
Yeah, so at the risk of beating the horse a little more, this potential one, that if there really is an unintended consequence from the province, as we were just discussing here, that can we not potentially have a motion asking the province to correct this oversight, copy the other regions, encouraging them to do the same thing, so that we're officially lobbying them from the region to make that correction. We're working through a way to find another way to keep this program going forward. Is there any harm in doing that?
So I think through the chair, that's exactly what our solicitor was recommending. They were going to frame it in the exact wording of what we would want the province to do. But certainly, that's the intent. So whether you say it at a high level, our solicitor was looking at saying, this is exactly what we wish the province to, in detailed wording, but the intent is the same. That's exactly what our solicitor was recommending.
So if we're able to do that, can we have, I put a motion on the floor for that, or just wait for the wording and do it at council?
Through the chair, I think if you don't mind waiting for the wording and do it at council, and then you have exactly what we would be asking the province to do.
Okay, because that would be ideal. So we're aligned with the other regions. Just all pressure is welcome. So so we look forward to that, so that we can add that motion to the region. That's all right, Mr. Solicitor. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So we have the revised motion. We have it moved and seconded. And I've called for a recorded vote. So we'll open that now.
Looking for Regional Chair Henry online. A second time, Regional Chair Henry.
Go ahead, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Yep. We have that as included, yes. Thank you. We have no advice. Oh, there's another report, sorry. So we have F9 about the UPass agreement. Councillor McDougall.
I'll make that motion, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, thank you.
Councillor Leahy, appreciate it. Any questions on the report? Chris, did you have another? Yeah? Go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. So I just, for that particular piece, so we're saying 4.9% a year for the next basically 3 years. Are we confident that are we just trying to give some visibility for their planning at the at Ontario Tech and Durham College? Or do we have a sense that that's going to be covering our costs? Or I appreciate the planning aspect of 3 years, so it's predictability, but we also know that there's other costs and they are getting a good deal here. So are we recovering enough is my first question.
So through the chair, as you're implying, there was a huge amount of nuances here in trying to come to a resolve. But Chris is here from Transit, so I'm going to refer the question on how much we're recovering versus that sensitivity of how much they're prepared to go forward with. So over to you, Chris.
Perfect, thank you. Good morning, and through the chair. A lot of work went into this, and if you'll recall, we did bring a report forward last year that listed the confidential negotiation framework. So the 4.9% falls within that. I think the historical context is important. Typically, for the last 3 years, we've seen increases of 1.9%. We've done that to avoid referendums, which could derail the UPass entirely. So the 4.9% does cover the costs. And I would say that the additional revenue is something that will benefit the entire transit system, over the course of the next 3 years. And so I do think this is kind of a fair thing for students. They represent 24% of our ridership. And so this is, considering that all students are required to purchase the UPass, which is why we're able to provide this significant reduction, it does fall in line with our planning.
Okay, no, fair enough. So I guess we're good till 2028, and then we can have those discussions again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Then I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we have no advisory committee resolutions or confidential matters. Is there any other business? Seeing and hearing none, then the date of the next meeting is June the 10th. And can I get a motion to adjourn? I'm Councillor Crawford, seconded by Councillor Leahy. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, everybody.